Welcome to the first podcast of the J.A.X Podcast, where we talk about the journey and experiences of those that I've met along my journey. And today we have Maggie Aldana. And I'm so excited, Maggie, for us to just have a conversation. Ever since I've met you, you have been such a light in my life. And to know your story and to see your heart and what you're working towards and what your goals and aspirations are, I feel like we really align together. And I'm just so grateful and honored that you are here today to talk with me and just share your story with my audience. And I think it's going to be a great one. So if you want to just take us from your experiences that you've gone through that have gotten you to where you are today, that'd be great.
Thank you, Jackie. I am so excited to be here and to know that I'm your first guest on your podcast. We met a few months ago, and ever since we met, I just we hit it off immediately, and I made some decisions based off of meeting you. Actually, you totally convinced me to join into a community, and I guess you were the light that guided my path into um confirming the decisions that we were making for our family and for the past few months. So everything's been wonderful, and I'm so excited that you invited me to be here today. Just my background, really, I studied finance. I went into retail banking, and because my oldest son, who is very pivotal to my story as well, as are my other two children, I became a teacher right around the time that he was 7 years old, and he really needed a lot more time and my attention. So I left what I knew in banking. I taught elementary school for 9.5 years. And so the reason I stopped was one day after work when I was coming on my way home. This was back in 2016. I was rear ended by a truck, and I was in a really bad car accident that pretty much left me in severe pain for like the next 2 years, and very, very much limited what I could do physically. So, I was mostly confined to bed and in, a lot of severe pain, and on visiting 12 different doctors and on 14 different drugs. So, the reason I mentioned that story was because that's really where my entrepreneurial journey started. Because I don't know, like, I guess I had that realization that I've always wanted to start a business. I was a business banker. I was around Chamber of Commerce, and I was always looking and seeing people that had their own businesses. And I was always curious to know, like, what inspired them? Like, how did you get your idea? Why are you a mechanic? Why are you a baker? Like, how did you, know that that's what you wanted to do with your life? And, they my community members were my, inspirations, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, what would be my path? Like, it was like I saw so many opportunities, but I was just like, one day I'll own my own business. I just don't know what that is yet. Um, and then, like, I had the accident, and I had a big realization, like, oh my gosh, like, I almost died. This accident herniated all my cervical disc. It burst, my C4, C5 when I had to have that replaced. And I was left in severe pain. And I'm like, wow, like, my life came to a hard stop right then. I thought I was going to go back to the classroom, but physically I was not able to. It was just impossible. I could not even go to the bathroom by myself without a cane and without support. Like, it was really life altering, and I came to a realization, there were plenty of times where I'm like, wow, like, I almost died. And now I have these kids and I can't move from bed. And what was it that I always wanted to do? Like, I have a second chance at doing this life thing again, and I want to make sure that I don't have any regrets. And I've always wanted to have a business, so I don't know what that is. And I learned about, e-commerce, and that was something that I didn't drive for 3 years afterwards. Like, the vertigo and, what I had going on, and physically was preventing that. But I realized, hey, what can I do? I said, well, I can't move and I can't drive, but my fingers still work. So, and my head, like, focusing on a new skill, that would be, that would take my mind off of the pain that I was experiencing. So right in the middle of, like, what, I was going through not sleeping, I'm like, well, if I'm gonna spend, 3 days with insomnia and I can't sleep, I might as well learn something new. So, YouTube University came into my life, and I started focusing on e-commerce. Like, I'm like, well, my fingers still work, and if I can learn how to order products, and if I can, figure out how to run a business from a computer, like, I could do that, like, that would make me happy. Um, so I started out with tools, like, I joined a mastermind, which I encourage everyone to do, like, whatever it is that you are interested in. I guarantee you that there's a community that will help you succeed. So that was pivotal in my journey. Was I joined a mastermind that had mentors that were willing to teach me from the ground up. This was not my background. I was an elementary school teacher. Like, I did not have Facebook prior to this. I did not have YouTube. I did not have social media. I didn't have a presence at all. And so I was learning a lot of new things while in a lot of severe pain, but it really did take my mind off of things. And that's really where my entrepreneurial journey starts. Was just like, I didn't want to have any regrets. Like, I'm like, this is something I wanted to do. I know nothing about it, but I'm not going to leave that undone, in my story. That's not my journey.
I love that. And that's just something I want to commend you for, because I think in situations like that, it's very easy to not see where you can take advantage of such a tragic situation, that you're seeing, okay, what can I, this happened to me, but I can't change what's happened. What can I do to improve or move past this? And for you to just have that determination for yourself and recognize, like, this is a second chance and I'm going to do whatever it is that I wanted to do. I just think that's so amazing and such a testament to who you are as a person. And it's something also that, like, your kids are so blessed to be able to see that from you and to have that as a role model figure. So I think that's amazing.
You bring up my kids, and they're actually very much the reason that I do what I do today. Even back then, I will tell you that my daughter, she was 2 years old when this happened. And I there were a lot of days where I just had sunglasses on, I had headphones on, like, the light hurt my eyes, the sound hurt my head. The pressure of the headphones hurt my head, but not as much as just the ambient sound that was going on. And I remember my daughter just, like, jumping on on the bed and just kind of, like, trying to move, the sunglasses. And she's like, Mommy, you got to open your eyes. I'm like, no, baby, I can't. And she's like, but the sun came out for you and me today. And I was just like, I got to open my eyes. Like, this is just going to happen. And so my kids are very much my motivation, like, I have to, like, I have to get up. I have to, move. I have to be there for them because they are the light of my life. So
I love that. So with your e-commerce, what could you talk a little bit about what you learned and what that looked like for you?
So, yeah, like that's really exciting. So here I am in bed and I'm learning about like, oh, you got to start a company and oh, you got to do branding and oh, you got to, like pick a product and product selection. And I knew nothing about it. So this is where I encourage people to like find a course and take action. So I was just watching the videos and talking to my doctor. I'm like, hey, like, can you help me like focus because I'm not comprehending. I'm watching these videos 10 times and I know they're speaking English, but I'm not getting it. It's just not going through. So I persisted and then, I actually took action and I started contacting factories and I started, learning how, what it was to put together a company. I actually started two companies because I didn't know the difference between a company and a brand and like, how to name, like what the naming conventions were. But my head hurt so bad that I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to create both and whichever one, is the one that applies, I'm going to do that, which you know, it might not be the wisest thing to do, but I didn't want my lack of action or inability to like, oh well, my over analyzing to keep me from moving forward. So I ended up picking I ended up going into tools, and which is funny because I know nothing about tools. Like I my first product was a stud finder, and this is after selecting two other products, and finding out, like a steel factory shut down and this shut down. So, this was actually like my third product. And um, I I got it ordered and, I got it launched. And in that time, I met some mentors and, I got invited on to do a sourcing trip to China, and I participated. I was, after, and that there's a whole story leading up to that because there was the recovery piece as well during this time, and I'm like praying that my body keeps up with what I'm asking it to do. And I'm like, well, I'm feeling good today, so let me just jump on a plane and go, like go figure this out, um and there's and again, this was through a lot of support with my family, with my husband being super supportive, and also my doctor, providing me with the guidance and the knowledge. I was under the care of acupuncturist and traditional Chinese medicine doctor who was looking at my body holistically and addressing what the chronic inflammation that my body had been experiencing after suffering from that extreme pain and my body being in a severe flare. And I met so many amazing people through that community in e-commerce that um and it opened my eyes to see that there are so many people that are willing to help you even from the ground up, like to you know sh- like just extend their hand and pull you with them because they want to see you win and they want to see you succeed. So I did that trip and came back like overwhelmed after spending 12 days like immersed in this mastermind. I share the story that I spent the next 12 months unpacking everything, from what the tools are, from what branding is, from what is my why, what's my motivation, like really getting to know myself and asking questions that I hadn't asked before, and it's funny, like, I'm at that point in time, it's kind of like I'm 40 years old and I'm rediscovering myself by doing making the decision to pursue something that was always of interest of me to me, but I was too busy living life and doing what I was told to do, like, oh, you got to get a job and you got to do this and you got to pay the mortgage, you got to, and I didn't have time to explore that part of myself, like what my wants were. So really the past 4 or 5 years have been a journey of rediscovery of what really gets me going, and also, you know, sharing that journey with my kids. Um, Fast forward, you know, from the tools, it took me about 2.5 years to figure out, um, that tools was not my area of expertise, not where I should be spending time, but something that was, my area of expertise was the health, you know, like having, um, these conversations with my doctors, you know, like, functional care doctors, like, every week. I learned a lot. I learned about endocrine disruptors. I learned about natural products. I learned about, what I should be eating, what I should be, avoiding in my personal care products. And my kids learned because they were part of the journey with me. So I have 3 children. One's 23, my another son that's 15, and a daughter that just turned 10. And at that point in time, um, I was sharing with them what they were learning. So I home educate my kids, and so I'm like, "Oh, this is what I learned on this, you know, video module about, you know, businesses. This is where what I learned about, you know, taking care of your customers. This is what I learned about branding. This is what I've learned about." And because I was home and I was just sharing with them, you know, like in conversations. So my daughter at that point in time, she was 6, and my younger son was 11, and I'm sharing with them what I'm learning. And then they had a homeschool entrepreneur fair with their homeschool group. And I asked my son, like, "Oh, who do you wanna serve? Like, who, you know, who in the community do you wanna help? Who's your audience?" Like, and I'm like, "You, I know you like to cook. I know that, you know, you like to create things in the kitchen. You know, do you wanna bake some brownies or make some cookies?" And he's like, No." I'm like, "Really?" He comes back and he's like, "Mom, um, what about soaps? You know, like, that would be fun. I wanna, you know, like, make some fun soaps." And I told him, I'm like, "I know nothing about soaps, but I thought it would be a good research project for him, you know, to learn how to, like, learn how to make soaps using YouTube or, you know, books in the library." And so he's like, "Okay." And I said, "Well, provide a list." And, you know, I in my head, I'm thinking, "Oh, we could hit science, we could hit math. He's gonna be reading," you know, like, there's so many little check boxes as a homeschool mom, you know, that I'm thinking like, "Oh, this is really cool." And he comes back with a whole list of ingredients, and he's like, "Well, I need goat's milk, I need oatmeal, I need, glycerin, and I need, you know, like, a honey soap." And I'm like, "What is this for?" And he's giving me the reasons why, you know, how each one of them are beneficial. I'm like, "Oh, that really makes sense." And come the day of the he made his soaps all by himself, and he colored them, and we went to the fair, and he, he manned the booth, and my daughter was the one going and funneling people to, you know, "You gotta come see the soaps that my brother did." And, I was just listening to him, and I was also listening to the parents. And the parents were talking about how hard it was to find products that they would, you know, that are natural and that weren't irritating for their children as well as for themselves. And it's funny because sometimes I think a lot of us go around and we see you know, like, we're having a situation where we're having a problem. I was having problems finding products that for my kids that I would put on them, or for myself that didn't have endocrine disruptors. Prior to my accident, I had no idea what that meant, you know, which are chemicals that disrupt your hormones and the communication system that you had, you know, that you have in your body.
Hmm.
That meant nothing to me. Like, it's like, I need shampoo or I need perfume, or I need, you know, a lotion, and you go to the store and you buy something. But now I knew, like, "Oh, I need to avoid this so it lowers the inflammation in my body." And I started becoming a label reader, and so did my kids. So using that, I was like, "Oh, well, this isn't good and this isn't good, and oh man, I can't buy that either." And then I heard all these parents, and then my son's going through like growing pains, and I learned about magnesium helping with like spasms, and that it's good for over 300 different functions. And this is all information I was getting because of my health journey. And so between the three of us, my son, my daughter, what I had learned, we kind of like came up with the idea like, well, what if we could create products for my son and for our community, because apparently I wasn't the only one having this issue. Like, what would that look like? So within a month, we were after the entrepreneur fair, we were in a lab and we were sharing our vision, and we by I would say by February, that was in November, and by February we had our first sample of a product that we would go on to launch in October of 2020. So it was right around it was during the pandemic, and I spent the year like learning learning some more. I joined a mentorship that has been amazing and a turning point in my life. I wouldn't do anything without being, surrounded by a group of amazing experts, mentors, and friends. These are the people that have really changed my life for the better, because when I'm dreaming out loud, like, oh, we can do this and we can do that, they don't look at you like you're crazy, like, oh, that's impossible. Like, oh, that's going to cost so much money. Oh, you're never going to be able to launch it. Versus, yeah, you should really, like, that's a really good idea. And, this is what you need to do. And these are the obstacles you need to watch out for. And this is how you can prepare yourself. And, like, being around that group of people that cheerlead you on, and they've walked that path before, and they're so excited to see you win, like, that's made all the difference. So we ended up launching our first product, which was a magnesium cream for kids, because all the other products that were on the market, my son was like, oh, that one's sticky and that one burns and this one smells. And I'm like, but it's unscented. He's like, it still smells, So using him, and his expertise, I liken him to, how you have the people that are really what are they called, the people that have their noses trained to like to smell the wines, and
Uh,
what's the word for that? Is it sommelier?
I think it is, yeah, sommelier.
So my son is that person. He's like smelling all the creams, and he's like, yeah, no, not that one, no, not that one. And instead of looking at it as him being picky, I'm like, I wonder if we can make something that he would like. So our first product is actually a magnesium cream for kids, and it doesn't look like this anymore. We're rebranding it. And my husband came up with the name, Mindfully Natural, because he's like, you're so thoughtful about everything that comes into our home, into our pantry, like he's like, it's very mindful, you're always like, oh, it has to be natural. It has to be, like clean, he's like, so Mindfully Natural, he put it together. And so it's really a family project. I tell everybody, it started out as a homeschool project, and now I have a full-time job, like making that vision come to life. And it has been amazing. It's been a fun journey. We've all grown, and it just goes to show that, you could like, opportunity is there, like, just depending on your perspective. And my kids are part of that journey. My kids are at the table when we're making decisions on what we should do for packaging. My kids are at the table, they're packing up, their samples. My kids are at the table when we're looking at labels and we're looking at colors. They're part of that conversation. And I just feel extremely blessed to be able to walk that journey alongside them and have that experience.
That's so amazing. I love that you said it's definitely a family oriented endeavor. I think even like your kids at that age of 10 and 15. And I mean, they were 6 and 11 when it all started. And that is so pivotal in their journey of their life, growing up with that experience, and the way that it seems that you really treat your kids as equals. And a lot of times for that parent-child dynamic, it typically isn't that way. But the way that you have it structured with your family allows your kids to feel empowered with what their capabilities are. And I think that's so exciting, because it's just the start for them. And to see, like, you've already given them that proof of concept of like, hey, you can, think of anything that you want to do, and we can figure out a way to make it happen. Like, there's an answer for everything. And to give them that is like a superpower. So it's really exciting to see that. I can't wait to see what they end up doing down the road.
Yes, that's, it's that curiosity. As a mom, I'm curious with what they're going to do. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, for example, this summer, we were walking a box factory and we were walking a label factory. And my husband's kind of like, this is like an episode of How It's Made. And we're having a private tour of these factories where we're deciding whether or not we're going to move our production over there. And I'm like, I'm experiencing that at this age. They are experiencing that at 9 and 15. Like, that is huge. Like, what are they going to do with that information? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, and they're little creators. They love creating. They love art. They love the polymer clays, they love crafting, they love sewing. Like, you give them something kinesthetic, and the things that they come up with amaze me. I think, we're both learning together, like we are like equals, because we're discovering the world together. And it's not that I know more than they do. I'm just doing the adult stuff that, like if I can sign a contract or, and they get to live in that creative space.
That's
So
so
that's
amazing.
exciting.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to leave my oldest son out. He's a realtor, and he inspires me as well. He started his business, he got his real estate license, and he's like, Mom, I want to do what you're doing, because I think he saw that, the kids and me, we were, like his younger brother and sister. We were working together. He's like, that, that's really cool. Like, I want to do that. And earlier this year, he's like, Mom, like, what do you think I should do? I'm having these challenges with these contracts, and with the banks and with the interest rates going up, and it's, challenging looking for like clients to serve. And one thing I had learned, like when I was in retail banking, was that people apply for loans, and like, oh, there's a large percentage of them that get declined. And in the same way that we saw an opportunity for skincare, for kids that had, skin sensitivities, and, there wasn't that natural option there. I was telling my son, I'm like, hey, I think it would be good if you could serve that community of people that don't get their loans approved. I don't know what's out there for them, but maybe if you're the guy that comes up with an answer, that would be helpful. Like, serve those people that really need attention. And he's like, well, what would you suggest? And I'm like, oh, find a community. Because I am here and I'm doing what I can because of the amazing mastermind that I joined, and they're leaders in e-commerce. So if you find a community in real estate, and find the leaders that are in real estate and what you want to do. And that's where he found Gator, and he found Sub 2, and he was like, Mom, look at these amazing people, and what do you think? And I thought, I'm like, you know what, they seem like that's where you would be making your friends, like for the real estate. Well, little did I know that the community was so amazing that I would, the entire family would be, invited to participate and would be really curious. So, um, that's that was really surprising because, our goal as a family is to get a farm up and going in this initiative led by, my daughter, who's like, from the time she was 7, she's a self-proclaimed farmer. She tells everybody, "I'm growing, toxin-free food, poison-free food so that people can be healthy." And I know that a lot of it comes from what she was 2, and she's learning, "Oh, mom can't have this. Mom has to have organic. Mom, needs." So she's growing up with like, "Oh my gosh, like, where, why can't we have clean food and clean products?" So, and she's like, "Mommy, am I too young to be a farmer? Mommy, am I too young to, I'm like, "No, baby, you're not too young for anything. What is it that's interesting to you?" And so she's like, "Well, I need chickens so we can have pasture raised eggs." We learned about, having pasture raised eggs for my personal diet. And she's like, "Well, we have to have chicken." Like she just takes it on and, now we have chickens. Um, and so we that was the direction that we were gonna go as a family, like we're gonna have a regenerative farm. Basically, there I the family mission is to eat healthier and share that knowledge. As an educator, like sharing that with the community. And I think it's become like a family mission now, like, that we all want to like come together and being part of the real estate community, and like having access to all this wealth of knowledge and experience, and like my son being able to bring that other aspect into our family has been really helpful. So we are a very connected family, and there is no line between our work conversations, for example, what I do with skincare, or the work conversation that my son does with real estate, because it really just feeds into one vision.
Hmm.
Um, and that's really exciting, like when you can blend both of those, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun because we're kind of like every day we're all growing. So it's my husband, me, and my 3 kids, and we're having these conversations that I feel so privileged to be part of, where I'm like just amazed and grateful every day that this is the life that I lead.
That's so awesome. Now, with everything that you've shared, are there any resources such as, certain type of book or podcast or anything that kind of has shaped or helped you in your mindset through your journey?
Oh, wow. That is huge. I have had, um, whether there's so much there. Like there's the health podcast that, like I was listening to, whether it's Dr. Berg or Dr. Axe, and, like there's probably a whole list of other doctors that I can't mention off the top of my head because I don't remember and I didn't prepare. Um, you know, I get to enjoy what I do today because of my health. So, also mindset. I love, Lewis Howes for mindset, Dr. Joe Dispenza for help, like helping me learn like the importance of meditation and what effect that has on my body. Like they're coming to me now, um, I love like the Mind Valley, trainings and what they have. There's so many mentors just within that, like Jim Quick for, like Brain and Limitless. Um, all the business books that I've read, like that break it down and, kind of like help you see that what's possible, whether it's, focusing on one thing, like the one thing, or,
Yeah.
who, not how. Um, um, just, the a lot of the business books, where like finding your passion and systematizing, how important it is to create systems. That's really helpful as well. And definitely the community. So I'm part of the Titan network, and that's what's helped me grow with e-commerce. And, also the sub 2 community, has been invaluable, in opening doors and meeting, an just amazing, amazing people like you, and where I can honestly call you one of my best friends, and that is just such a blessing for us. So yeah, I'd probably have to come up with a list, but I live in a library because I buy all the books that really make an impact and a difference in my life. So
That was a
uh,
lot of good resources, though. You gave a lot of good ones.
thank you.
That's so funny. But yes, Maggie, I feel the same way. You're definitely one of my best friends, the person I really talk to the most. And it's awesome because we can talk all things, business and family and just life. And I really appreciate that. But yeah, so to wrap it up, where can people find you? And also Mindfully Natural, where can they go for that as well?
So my Instagram is at underscore Maggie Aldana. I did not know, and just as a reference, I did not know that there was like 10 other Maggie Aldanas that I could find. So that was really difficult. That explains the little underscore in front of the name. Um, at Mindfully Natural is where you can find out about all the product launches. Currently, I have like the Ultra Soothing Cream, and I have the Magnesium Cream. Um, on You can find it on Amazon, and so it's undergoing a rebranding. And I'm also launching a sunscreen stick shortly, and calendula, and a whole bunch of other products. So keep a lookout for that. And there should we'll be doing some marketing and product launches, so some fun activities in the next few months. So yeah, definitely those are the two places to find out what I'm up to personally and what I'm up to with the company.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maggie, for sharing today. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey and your story and all of your experiences. I know we'll be talking soon, so I'll talk with you later. But thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.